The diplomatic mask ambassador, Elena Vasquez, stood at the observation deck of Luna Station, watching the massive alien ships approach through the viewport. The vessels were unlike anything in human design, appearing as twisted spires of dark metal that seemed to absorb the light from nearby stars. Each ship stretched over 2 kilometers in length, dwarfing the modest human stations that orbited Earth's moon. Elena adjusted her diplomatic uniform and checked her earpiece one final time. Everything had to appear perfect. Everything had to seem genuine. Ambassador, called Lieutenant David Park from the communications console behind her. The alien delegation is requesting immediate docking clearance. They're not asking politely. Elena turned from the viewport, her expression carefully neutral. She had practiced this moment countless times in simulation, but now that it was real, she could feel her heart racing. The fate of humanity might very well depend on her performance in the next few hours. Grant them clearance, Elena replied, her voice steady despite her inner tension. And remind all station personnel that we need to appear accommodating. Lieutenant Park nodded and began transmitting the docking authorization. Elena walked toward the main conference room, where she would soon face representatives of the Korthek Empire, a galactic power that had conquered dozens of worlds across the galaxy. The airlock hissed open 30 minutes later, and 3 figures emerged that made Elena fight to keep her expression calm. The Korthak were enormous, standing nearly 3 meters tall with thick, armored skin that looked like living stone. Their faces were angular and harsh, with glowing red eyes that seemed to burn with inner fire. The leader wore what appeared to be military decorations across his massive two, flanked him like bodyguards. I am War Chief Thrakos of the Korthak Third Fleet. The leader announced, his voice deep and rumbling like distant thunder. You will address me as Supreme Commander and show proper deference to the might of our empire. Elena stepped forward and offered what she hoped appeared to be a nervous smile. Welcome to Luna Station, Supreme Commander. I am Ambassador Elena Vasquez, representing the United Earth Government. We are honored by your visit. Thrakos looked around the station's main hall with obvious contempt. The human facility was clean and functional, but it appeared primitive compared to Korthak technology. The walls were simple metal panels. The equipment looked outdated, and everything seemed designed for creatures much smaller and weaker than the towering aliens. This was exactly the impression Elena wanted to create. Your species has been chosen for integration into the Korthak Empire. Thrakos continued, his tone making it clear this was not a negotiation. You will immediately surrender 70% of your planetary resources to our administration. Your people will serve our needs as directed. Your military forces will be disbanded and your weapons surrendered. Compliance will ensure your continued existence. Elena gasped and took a step backward, her hand moving to her throat in apparent shock. 70%? But that would mean our people would barely have enough to survive. The second alien, who appeared to be Thrakos' aide, spoke for the first time. Survival is more than most species receive when they resist the Empire. Consider yourselves fortunate that we offer any terms at all. Behind Elena, Lieutenant Park made a choking sound and gripped the edge of his console. The young officer's face had gone pale, and his hands were shaking slightly. Elena knew he wasn't. Acting Park genuinely was terrified, which made the performance even more convincing. Please, Elena said, adding a slight tremor to her voice. Earth has over 8 billion people. We need time to consult with our various governments. Our planet is divided into many different nations, each with their own leaders. It's not simple to get them all to agree. Thrakos laughed, a sound like grinding metal that echoed through the station's corridors. Your fractured world governments are a sign of your primitive nature. We have studied your species for months. You fight constantly among yourselves. Your weapons are crude chemical explosives and basic fusion devices. Your space presence consists of a few small stations and mining operations that a single Korthok destroyer could eliminate in minutes. That's true, Helena admitted, looking down at the floor in apparent shame. We're not a unified species like yours. Our technology is limited. The International Space Station represents our greatest achievement in space, and it took us decades to build. What Thrakos didn't know was that the International Space Station he could see from his ship was actually a decoy, designed to look like humanity's pinnacle of space technology, while the real military installations remained hidden. The third alien, who had remained silent until now, finally spoke. Commander, their orbital defenses are exactly as our scouts reported. Simple metal constructions with basic life support. Their largest vessel in orbit has a mass equivalent to one of our shuttlecraft. Elena nodded sadly. The Luna Gateway is our pride and joy. It took us 15 years to construct. She was referring to another decoy station, built specifically to be discovered by alien reconnaissance. Pathetic, Thrakos muttered. You have 48 of your planetary rotations to contact your fractured governments and arrange complete surrender. If you refuse, we will demonstrate why resistance is futile by destroying several of your population centers. This is the only warning you will receive. After the aliens left, Elena waited exactly 60 seconds before activating a secure communication channel. The modest station suddenly came alive with hidden technology. Walls slid away to reveal advanced holographic displays, and primitive computers transformed into quantum processing units. This is Vasquez to General Chen, she said into the concealed communicator. The fish have swallowed the bait completely. The response came immediately from General Marcus Chen, currently commanding the hidden fortress buried deep within the asteroid belt. Outstanding work, Alina. How did they react to our performance? Exactly as predicted. They're convinced we're helpless primitives who can barely manage interplanetary travel. They're giving us 48 hours to surrender unconditionally. Dr. Sarah Kim's voice joined the conversation from her laboratory on the far side of the moon. Perfect timing, General. Our final preparations will be complete in 36 hours. The fleet will be ready to deploy. Elena looked out at the Korthek ships, hanging in Earth's orbit like predators circling wounded prey. They have no idea what's coming, do they? None at all, General Chen replied. They've spent so long conquering peaceful civilizations that they've forgotten how to identify a real threat. Lieutenant Park approached Elena as she ended the communication. His earlier fear had been replaced by excitement, and his eyes were bright with anticipation. Ambassador, our monitoring stations report that additional Korthak vessels are arriving. Their fleet now numbers over 150 ships. Excellent, Elena said, with a smile that would have shocked the aliens. The more ships they bring, the more impressive our demonstration will be. What the Korthak didn't realize was that humanity had been preparing for this encounter for over 2 decades. Earth's real space program had been hidden from the beginning, developed in secret while maintaining the facade of a struggling, divided species. The technology they had observed was deliberately obsolete, created specifically to deceive any alien reconnaissance that might be watching. Captain James Torres commanded the hidden battle fleet from his flagship, the Prometheus, currently concealed behind Jupiter's largest moon. His ships were invisible to Korthak sensors, using stealth technology that rendered them undetectable. Each vessel was larger and more powerful than anything the aliens had in their fleet. Armed with weapons that could crack planets and protected by shields that could withstand stellar radiation. Captain, his tactical officer reported, we're receiving targeting data from the Luna Station surveillance systems. Every enemy vessel is being tracked and marked. Torres studied the tactical display showing the positions of all Korthak ships. They had arranged themselves in a standard occupation formation, surrounding Earth with their heaviest vessels while keeping their command ships in what they believed was a safe position near the moon. They're making this too easy, Torres muttered. Sir? They've positioned themselves exactly where we want them. No defensive formation, no scouts watching for hidden threats, no backup plans. They're so confident in their superiority that they're not even trying to protect themselves. Back on Luna Station, Alina was preparing for the second phase of humanity's deception. War Chief Thrakos had demanded that Earth's leaders present themselves for surrender negotiations, and Elena would soon have to convince him that humanity's most powerful people were gathering to discuss capitulation. In reality, she would be introducing him to a carefully selected group of actors and politicians who would continue the charade of human weakness. Asterisk. The next morning, Elena received Threkos and his delegation in Luna Station's main conference room. This time, 12 humans sat around a large table, each representing a different Earth nation or organization. They had been chosen not for their real authority, but for their ability to appear frightened and overwhelmed by the alien presence. War Chief Threkos, Elena began, I present the Emergency Council, Earth's leadership. We have spent the last day discussing your generous offer. Threkos looked around the table at the assembled humans. They appeared to be a mix of ages and ethnicities, all wearing formal clothing that looked primitive compared to Korthak fashion. Most importantly, they all looked terrified. Have you reached a decision? Threkos demanded. An elderly man at the far end of the table stood up slowly, his hands shaking. Supreme Commander, we got dot. We need more time. Some of our nations are still debating. The populations are panic-stricken. There are riots in several major cities. Our military leaders are arguing about whether resistance is even possible. Threkos slammed his massive fist on the table, causing several humans to jump in apparent fear. You have 24 hours remaining. Use them wisely. After that, we will begin demonstrating our power by destroying your population centers one by one. Until compliance is achieved. Elena stood up, her face pale. Please, Supreme Commander, we understand your empire's power. We're not trying to resist. We just need time to organize the surrender properly. Our governments have never faced anything like this before. Your governments are weak and fractured, the Korthak aide interjected. This is why your species requires our guidance. Once you are properly integrated into the Empire, such indecision will be eliminated. What none of the aliens realized was that every word of their conversation was being transmitted directly to General Chin and the hidden human fleet. The Korthak were providing detailed intelligence about their own capabilities, intentions and weaknesses while believing they were intimidating helpless PRIEs. As the aliens departed once again, Elena felt a mixture of anticipation and concern. The deception was working perfectly, but she knew that the real test would come when humanity finally revealed its true nature. The Korthak Empire had conquered dozens of worlds, and their military experience was considerable. Even with the advantage of surprise, the coming battle would determine whether human ingenuity could triumph over alien brute force. That evening, Elena stood once again at the observation deck, looking out at the Korthak fleet. Soon, those ships would learn what happened when you mistook human courtesy for human weakness. The galaxy was about to discover that Earth's greatest weapon wasn't its technology or its military. It was its ability to make enemies underestimate them until it was far too late. The courtesy ends War Chief Threkos stood in the command center of his flagship, the Iron Dominion, watching Earth rotate slowly beneath him. The blue and green planet looked peaceful and defenseless, exactly as his intelligence reports had indicated. Around him, his officers prepared for what they expected to be a simple demonstration of Korthak power, the destruction of a few human cities to encourage swift surrender. Report, Threkos commanded, his deep voice echoing through the ship's bridge. Commander Vexus stepped forward, consulting his tactical display. War Chief, all fleet elements are in position. 174 vessels surround the human world. Their pathetic orbital installations are completely within our firing range. No signs of hidden defenses or reinforcements. Threkos nodded with satisfaction. This would be another easy conquest to add to the Empire's long list of victories. The humans responded to our final ultimatum. Yes, War Chief. Ambassador Vasquez has requested one final meeting. She claims their governments are prepared to discuss surrender terms. Meanwhile, aboard Luna Station, Elena Vasquez was making her final preparations. She had just received confirmation from General Chin that all human forces were in position and ready to execute the operation that would change galactic history forever. The deception that had taken decades to perfect was about to reach its climax. Lieutenant Park, Elena said, open a channel to the Korthik flagship. When Thrakos' massive form appeared on the communication screen, Elena projected an image of desperate resignation. War Chief Thrakos, the United Earth government, has reached a decision. We accept your terms unconditionally. Thrakos leaned back in his command chair, a cruel smile spreading across his stone-like features. Excellent. Your species shows wisdom in recognizing superior power. You will now transmit the locations of all your military installations, stockpiles, and industrial facilities. Elena nodded quickly. Of course, Supreme Commander. We're preparing the data transmission now. However, there's one small request from our leaders. Speak quickly, Thrakos growled. Our governments would like to formally surrender to you in person, as a sign of respect for the Korthak Empire. They believe this would help our populations accept the transition more peacefully. Thrakos considered this for a moment. A formal surrender ceremony would indeed be appropriate, and it would demonstrate Korthak's superiority to any other species that might be watching. Very well. Your leaders will present themselves aboard my flagship in 1 hour. Any attempt at deception will result in the immediate destruction of your largest population centers. Elena bowed deeply. Thank you for your patience, War Chief. Our leaders are honored by your generosity. As the communication ended, Elena turned to Lieutenant Park with a smile that was no longer diplomatic. Send the signal, she said quietly. Tell General Chun that it's time to stop being courteous. Across the solar system, Captain James Torres received the activation code aboard his flagship, the Prometheus. Around him, dozens of other vessels began powering up systems that had remained hidden for years. The largest military force ever assembled by humanity was about to reveal itself. All ships, this is Captain Torres, he announced over the fleet communication network. Execute Operation Revelation. Show them what Earth is really capable of. Throughout space, the human fleet began decloaking. Ships that had been invisible to Korthak sensors suddenly appeared on their screens like materializing ghosts. The vessels were massive, each one larger than the aliens' heaviest dreadnoughts. Armed with weapons that pulsed with energy signatures unlike anything in the Korthak database. Aboard the Iron Dominion, alarms began screaming throughout the ship. Commander Vexus stared at his tactical display in absolute horror as hundreds of red contacts appeared around the Korthak fleet. War Chief, he shouted. We're detecting massive energy signatures. Unknown vessels are appearing throughout the system. Thrakos leaped from his command chair and strode to the main display screen. What he saw there defied everything he thought he knew about human capabilities. The space around Earth was filled with warships that dwarfed his own fleet, their hulls gleaming with advanced armor and bristling with weapon systems that seemed to bend light around them. Impossible, Thrakos roared. Where did these ships come from? Our scouts surveyed this system for months. Dr. Sarah Kim's voice suddenly filled the Korthik command center, transmitted from her laboratory on the moon's far side. War Chief Thrakos, this is Dr. Sarah Kim, Director of Earth's Defense Research Division. I believe you're experiencing some confusion. Who are you? Thrakos demanded. How are you transmitting on our secure frequencies? Dr. Kim's image appeared. On the Korthik main screen, she was a small human woman with kind eyes and a gentle smile that somehow made her words even more terrifying. We've been monitoring your communications since you entered our solar system. Your encryption is ... quaint. General Marcus Chen's voice joined the conversation from his command post hidden within an asteroid belt. War Chief, I am General Chen, commanding officer of the Earth Defense Network. I believe we need to have a serious discussion about your misconceptions regarding human military capabilities. Thrakos was struggling to process what he was seeing. The tactical display showed that his fleet was completely surrounded by human vessels that should not exist. This is impossible. We studied your species. You have barely achieved interplanetary flight. Your technology is primitive. Captain Torres appeared on screen from the bridge of the Prometheus. War Chief, you studied. Exactly what we wanted you to study. Did you really think a species that conquered its own planet would be helpless in space? Elena's voice came through the communication system from Luna Station, but now her tone had completely changed. Gone was the frightened, accommodating diplomat. In her place was someone who sounded supremely confident and slightly amused. War Chief Thrakos, this is Ambassador Vasquez. I believe we should clarify something important. Everything you've seen from humanity up to this point has been a carefully orchestrated performance. The frightened primitive species you thought you were conquering, that was all an act. The truth hit Thrakos like a physical blow. You you deceived us. Thoroughly, Elena confirmed. Those primitive orbital stations you observed, decoys, the simple technology you analyzed, deliberately obsolete. The divided, fractured governments unable to coordinate a defense, pure theater. We've been preparing for this encounter for over 20 years. Commander Vexis was studying the sensor readings with growing panic. War Chief, these human ships. Their energy output is beyond our measurement capabilities. Their weapon signatures are unlike anything in our database. Some of these vessels appear to be larger than our entire battle group. General Chen's voice cut through the alien confusion with military precision. Let me explain your situation, War Chief. You are currently surrounded by 347 human warships, each one equipped with technology you don't understand and can't counter. Your fleet is completely outgunned, outmaneuvered, and outmatched. Your only options are immediate surrender or total destruction. Thrakos looked around his bridge at his officers, seeing his own shock and disbelief reflected in their faces. In his 4 centuries of military service, he had never encountered a situation like this. The Empire had built its power on overwhelming force and technological superiority. The idea that a supposedly primitive species could have deceived them so completely was unthinkable. You cannot have developed this technology so quickly, Thrakos protested. Our intelligence indicates your species only achieved spaceflight within the last century. Dr. Kim smiled gently. War Chief, human development doesn't follow the same patterns as other species. We tend to advance very rapidly when we're motivated. The motivation in this case was avoiding exactly the situation you attempted to create. Conquest by a superior alien force. Captain Torres took control of the conversation with military directness. Here's what's going to happen, War Chief. Your fleet will power down all weapon systems and prepare for boarding. We're going to search your ships, catalog your technology, and interrogate your personnel. Resistance will result in the complete destruction of your fleet. And after that, Thrakos asked, his voice now much quieter than before. Elena's voice returned, but now it carried an edge of steel that hadn't been there during their diplomatic meetings. After that, you're going to return to the Korthek Empire with a message. Earth is not a target for conquest. Any future attempts to threaten humanity will result in consequences you won't survive. The space around the Korthak fleet suddenly erupted with controlled demonstrations of human firepower. Weapons that seemed to tear holes in reality itself fired precisely targeted shots that disabled Korthak ships without destroying them. Energy beams that could slice through planetary crusts cut alien vessels in half with surgical precision. Missiles that moved faster than light struck their targets before the Korthak sensors could even detect their launch. Within 30 minutes, the entire alien fleet was either disabled or captured. Not a single Korthak ship retained operational. Weapons or engines. The vaunted Third Fleet of the Korthak Empire had been neutralized without the humans suffering a single casualty. Commander Vexus stared at his disabled tactical systems in complete bewilderment. How is this possible? We are the Korthek Empire. We have conquered hundreds of worlds. Our technology is the most advanced in the galaxy. General Chen's response was calm and educational. Commander, your empire's greatest weakness is that you've spent too long conquering peaceful civilizations. You've forgotten how to fight an enemy that can fight back effectively. Humanity, on the other hand, spent thousands of years perfecting the art of warfare before we ever left our planet. Dr. Kim added her own analysis. You see, War Chief, the Korthak Empire made a critical error in judgment. You assumed that because we appeared peaceful and technologically inferior, we were weak. In reality, we were simply polite. There's a significant difference. Elena's final transmission to the defeated aliens carried a tone of genuine regret. War Chief, we tried to handle this diplomatically. We gave you multiple opportunities to leave peacefully. You chose to ignore our warnings and threaten our world. What happens next is entirely your responsibility. Captain Torres began coordinating the aftermath of the battle. All human vessels begin boarding operations. Secure all alien personnel and technology. War Chief Dracos and his senior staff will be transported to Earth for debriefing. As Korthak, soldiers were marched off their ships under human guard. Dracos found himself face to face with Elena Vasquez. The small human woman who had seemed so frightened and helpless now looked at him with calm confidence. War Chief, she said quietly, I want you to understand something important. This wasn't about demonstrating human superiority. This was about protecting our world and our people. We don't want to conquer your empire or destroy your civilization. We just want to be left alone. Dracos studied the human ambassador with new eyes. What will you do with us? We're going to repair your ships, return your personnel, and send you home with a message for your empire. Earth is under human protection. Any future threats against our world will be met with overwhelming force. We've tried courtesy and diplomacy. From now on, we respond to aggression with superior firepower. As the last Korthak prisoners were secured and their technology cataloged, General Chen addressed the human fleet. Outstanding work, everyone. Operation Revelation is complete. Earth's safety is assured. Dr. Kim was already analyzing the captured alien technology. General, their systems are advanced but rigid. They haven't adapted or evolved their designs in centuries. No wonder they were so surprised by our capabilities. Captain Torres was coordinating the return of the alien fleet. All ships, prepare to escort the Korthak vessels to the edge of our solar system. Make sure they understand they're not welcome back. Elena Vasquez stood once again at the observation deck of Luna Station, watching the alien ships depart under human escort. The Korthak fleet that had arrived to conquer Earth was limping away, their pride shattered and their confidence destroyed. The galaxy would soon learn that humanity was not a species to be underestimated. The message was clear. Earth had tried courtesy, diplomacy, and peaceful negotiation. When those approaches failed, humanity had shown its true strength. The age of human vulnerability was over, and the age of human protection had begun.